and I went on down to a hotel downtown off Times Square. And I went up and I used the telephone. I called at Long Island for Frank. And I had a hard time getting Bobby, but I finally got her in Long Island. And I said, Bobby, where's Frank at? And she said, he's not here right now. He's really tied up. And I said, I need to talk to him, Bobby, if I can. And the way she talked to me that night, it seemed like that was the time that he went to prison. And she says, Frank won't be around for a while. And I said, oh. And yeah, she said, he's got problems. And she said, what do you want? I said, well, Bobby, I wanted to talk to Frank, see if I could borrow a few dollars to give me a start. I said, I'm broke and I need some money. And she was, you know, happy to hear from me and everything. And she says, the only thing I can really tell you is I know a couple of guys here looking for somebody, for a driver. Well, that was right up my line, you know. And I asked who it was, and she said, you know him. She says, it's Frank's man. I said, oh, okay, I knew who he was talking about. And I said, I'm really broke, I need to make something work. She says, well, are you broke right now? And I said, I got very little money left. And she says, right now I'll put on Western Union, use some money, and you can pick it up down the street. And she says, I'll have Miller to come by your room. I told her where I was and what room I was in. And she said, they'll be there probably in 2 or 3 hours, just give them time. And so I went on down, I got the money, it was just like 30 minutes I had it in my hand. And she used a pass key for me to get the money without any problem when I used that. And so I stopped and got me something to eat down Times Square, and was just kind of wasting time. I went back up to the room, and I knew the old TV up there took quarters, so I had me a bunch of quarters so I could be watching TV. And the room was quite large. It was bigger than ordinary room was there. And it looked like maybe they was getting ready to remodel or something, or maybe turn them into apartments. I don't know what they were doing there. And so I got settled down in the room, and I was waiting, making this old TV. I pulled the TV out so I could watch it in the kind of like a rocker they had in there. And I kept watching this TV and putting quarters in. And so it was just about 6 o'clock. There was a knock on the door. And it was Miller and Eckert. One of the men that took care of financials of Costello. They hid the money and took care of everything. And so, you know, I knew them, but didn't know them personally or anything, but I knew them. So they come in and asked me how I've been. I said, well, I've been out working for a living for a change. And I told them I needed work, and Bobby said you had work. And so I wanted to talk to you about it. And so they said, yeah, we can sure work that out for you. He says, he was always loyal to Frank, and I know you're one of the best drivers. And he says, well, that's what we need is a driver. And I said, well, I'm your man. And he said, well, how much money do you need? I said, well, I was trying to get a hold of, you know, 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, ever what I could get my hands on. I've been happy with a couple hundred, you know. And he said, that's no problem. He says, you'll have your money. He says, I'm going to go get a couple of men and bring them up here and let you meet them, and we'll discuss what we want you to do. And I, as I could be, because I didn't know if Joe Gallo was around the corner ready to plug me or what. I didn't know. But, you know, I couldn't back down. I was already there. And so I watched a little bit of TV, and by golly, the knock come again. And I opened the door, and there was 4 men standing there. It was Eckerd, Miller, and one guy, tall, and not too heavy, but kind of lean. Well, just a well-built man. The other guy was a little shorter. And I think I saw him take off a pair of glasses outside the door. I'm not sure. And see, I think they was horn rim glasses. And he had them in his hand. So they walked in. Eckerd, Miller, they walked on in quite a ways. The 2 other men, they just barely cleared the door and they stopped. And so Miller asked me how things going. I said, well, I'm just waiting to see what you got. And so he was looking around the room and opened the closet, went in the bathroom like to use the bathroom, but he went in there to see if anybody was in there. And so he come back out and he said, well, let's get down to business. Somebody down in Texas owed Frank a big amount of money. You know, that wasn't nothing new. You know, it was a routine deal at that time, you know, owing the mafia a big amount of money. And I asked who it was, and they said, well, we're not going to put the name out, but we'll guide you to the place that you need to be. And so in the room, there was a long desk. Wasn't too long, I'd say 6 foot long, or maybe a little bigger, and had some stuff on it, stationery and envelopes of the hotel and things like that. And he kind of pushed that aside. He put a satchel up there that he brought in with him, and he had maps and different paperwork he laid out on it. And so he says, you know, he says, you was raised down in South Texas, wasn't you? I said, yeah. I said, most of my life I was down there. And he said, you know it real well? And I said, yeah, I know it very well. He said, well, he says, we got a problem. And we got this hotel set up in Waco, Texas, with a car in the parking lot, and the keys are in the box number, and he gave me the room number of the hotel. And he says, you memorize this, and he said, before you leave, he said, you tear it up and throw it away, and he says, I want you to tell me this number several times. And so I was very good on remembering numbers. So I put it in my head. It was simple. And the year of car that would be there and everything. And I thought, well, this is pretty big, you know, this man owes them a lot of money because they're going out of their way, you know, to set things up. And so I kindly asked him, I says, well, what will I be doing? He said, well, you wait in Waco. And he says, when we notify you, he says, you got about 45 minutes to get to either Fort Worth or Dallas. He says, we don't know where it's going to happen at, but it's going to happen in one of them. He says, most likely Fort Worth. And I said, yeah, okay. I was looking at the maps and everything. And the area, the stockyards, and where this hit might accidentally take place there. They were talking about different places. And they had pictures of them all. So they've been working on this thing more than just a few days. This was in the works for a while. And so Miller come over to me, and he said, now, you know, he said, what we want you to do, he said, we want you in one of those 2 towns in 45 minutes or less, that's what we call you.